There is a type of pain that doesn't show up on any scan. It doesn't leave a bruise, it doesn't swell, it doesn't bleed, but it's there, constant, deep, crawling through your muscles, settling into your joints, wrapping itself around your spine like a vine that tightens a little more with every passing month. It greets you every morning before you even open your eyes. It follows you through the afternoon. It sits beside you at night when sleep refuses to come. And the worst part isn't the pain itself. The worst part is that no one, not a single professional you've seen, can tell you why it's happening. If you're a woman over 45 and you've been waking up feeling like you were in a car accident the night before, stiff, heavy, aching from head to toe, and you've been told it might be fibromyalgia or stress or depression or simply aging, I need you to stay with me right now. Because what I'm about to share with you could change everything you thought you understood about your own body. This is not another video telling you to drink more water or stretch in the morning. This goes much, much deeper than that. I've spent years working with women in this exact situation. Women who come in exhausted, frustrated, sometimes in tears, not because the pain is unbearable, though it often is, but because they feel invisible. They feel gaslit by a system that was supposed to help them. They've been to 3, 5, sometimes 8 different professionals. They've had blood work done, X-rays, MRIs, nerve conduction studies. They've tried physical therapy, acupuncture, cortisone injections, and everything comes back normal. So they're sent home with anti-inflammatories, maybe an antidepressant, and a vague suggestion to try to reduce stress. Sometimes they're told to lose weight. Sometimes they're told it's just part of being a woman at this age. And the pain stays. Night after night, morning after morning, it stays. And slowly, quietly, it begins to steal pieces of who they are, their confidence, their independence, their joy. What most of these women were never told, what almost nobody investigates, is that there is a profound, well-documented, and deeply misunderstood connection between hormonal decline and widespread body pain, not emotional pain, not imagined pain, real, physical, measurable pain that originates not in damaged tissue, but in a nervous system that has lost one of its most critical protective mechanisms. Let me explain what I mean, because this is where it gets fascinating and a little unsettling. Estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. That's the first thing most people get wrong. They think of estrogen as something related to fertility, to menstruation, to pregnancy, and yes, it plays a role in all of those things. But estrogen is also one of the most powerful neuromodulators in the human body. It directly influences how your brain processes pain. It regulates inflammation at the cellular level. It supports the production of serotonin and endorphins, your body's own natural painkillers. It maintains the integrity of cartilage, tendons, and connective tissue. It even affects how hydrated your joints stay. So when estrogen begins to decline, which happens gradually during perimenopause and more dramatically during menopause, the effects aren't limited to hot flashes and mood swings. Something far more structural begins to shift. Your pain threshold drops. Sensations that your nervous system used to filter out, a tight muscle, a stiff joint, a minor inflammation, suddenly get amplified. The volume knob on pain, the one your body used to keep at a manageable level, gets turned all the way up. And no amount of ibuprofen can turn it back down, because the problem isn't inflammation in the traditional sense. The problem is that your body has lost the hormonal buffer that used to protect you from feeling everything at full intensity. This is what researchers call central sensitization, and it's one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in women over 45. Central sensitization means that your central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, has become hypersensitive. It starts interpreting normal signals as painful ones. A light touch on your shoulder feels like a deep bruise. Sitting in a chair for 20 minutes makes your hips burn. You wake up with pain in places you didn't even use the day before. And because there's no visible damage, no swelling, no structural abnormality, you're told there's nothing wrong. Or worse, you're told it's fibromyalgia and handed a diagnosis that for many women becomes a dead end rather than a doorway to understanding. Now, I want to be very clear. Fibromyalgia is a real condition. It exists. It affects millions of people. But here's what troubles me after years of clinical observation. A significant number of women who receive a fibromyalgia diagnosis between the ages of 45 and 55 are actually experiencing the downstream effects of hormonal collapse. The symptoms overlap almost perfectly: widespread pain, fatigue, brain fog, sleep disruption, emotional sensitivity. And because the hormonal connection is rarely investigated, these women end up on medications that manage symptoms without ever addressing the root cause. I had a patient once, a woman in her late 40s, incredibly active, ran her own business, exercised regularly, ate well. She was the kind of person who never complained. She came to me after 2 years of escalating pain. It had started in her shoulders, a dull ache she attributed to sleeping in the wrong position. Then it moved to her lower back. Then her knees started swelling after short walks. Then her hands, the grip she once used to carry grocery bags and open bottles without a thought, began to fail her. By the time I saw her, she could barely open a jar. She had stopped cooking. She had stopped exercising. She had started canceling plans with friends because she never knew how she would feel from 1 hour to the next. She had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, put on pregabalin, and told to pace herself. When I asked about her menstrual cycle, she paused, looked at me like I had asked something strange. No one, in 2 years, across multiple consultations, had ever asked her that in the context of her pain. Her periods had become irregular 18 months earlier, right around the time the pain started. That wasn't a coincidence. That was the clue everyone missed. And she's not alone. I see this pattern over and over again, week after week, year after year. The timeline almost always matches. The pain begins when the hormonal shift begins. But because these two things are treated by different specialists in different departments with different frameworks, the connection gets lost in the space between them. The gynecologist doesn't ask about joint pain. The rheumatologist doesn't ask about hot flashes. The pain specialist doesn't check hormone levels. And the woman in the middle is left holding pieces of a puzzle that no one is helping her put together. She becomes her own detective in a case where the evidence is hidden inside her own endocrine system. Let me take you a little deeper into the science, because I think you deserve to understand what's actually happening inside your body. When estrogen levels fall, several things happen simultaneously. First, there's a decrease in synovial fluid, the lubricant that keeps your joints moving smoothly. Without adequate synovial fluid, joints become stiff, creaky, and painful, especially in the morning. This is why so many women over 45 wake up feeling like their body has aged 20 years overnight. It's not arthritis, though it mimics it almost perfectly. It's hormonal joint dehydration. Second, estrogen plays a critical role in modulating inflammatory cytokines, the chemical messengers that trigger inflammation. When estrogen drops, pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor increase. This creates a state of low-grade, chronic systemic inflammation, the kind that doesn't show up on standard blood tests, but quietly damages tissue, irritates nerves, and amplifies pain signals throughout the body. Third, and this is the part that surprises most people, estrogen directly influences the production of serotonin in the brain. Serotonin isn't just a mood hormone, it's a key player in pain regulation. When serotonin drops, your brain loses one of its primary tools for dampening pain. This is why depression and pain so often travel together in menopausal women. Not because the pain is psychological, but because the same hormonal collapse that triggers mood changes also dismantles the brain's pain management system. And then there's progesterone. Progesterone has natural calming and anti-inflammatory effects on the nervous system. It acts almost like a mild sedative for your nerves, keeping them from firing too aggressively, helping you sleep deeply, reducing the overall excitability of your pain pathways. When progesterone declines, that calming influence disappears. Your nerves become more reactive, your sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. And without restorative sleep, your body loses its primary window for tissue repair and pain recovery. It becomes a vicious cycle. Less progesterone, worse sleep, more pain, more stress, more inflammation, more pain. Even testosterone, which most women don't realize they produce in meaningful quantities, plays a role that is far more significant than most professionals acknowledge. Testosterone supports muscle mass, bone density, and the health of connective tissue, the fascia, the tendons, the ligaments that hold your skeleton together and allow you to move without pain. As it declines, which it does slowly but relentlessly from the mid-30s onward, muscles become more prone to fatigue and micro-tears. Tendons lose their elasticity and become brittle. The overall structural support system of your body weakens in ways you can feel but can't see on a scan. This makes you more vulnerable to pain from activities that used to feel effortless. Carrying a bag of groceries, climbing a flight of stairs, getting up from a low chair, things that once required no thought now require negotiation with a body that seems to have turned against you. When you put all of this together, the drop in estrogen, the loss of progesterone, the slow decline of testosterone, what you get is not a single symptom, not a single diagnosis. You get a full body shift, a fundamental rewiring of how your nervous system processes sensation, a dismantling of the protective mechanisms that kept pain in check for decades. Your body doesn't just feel different, it is different at the biochemical level in ways that demand a completely different approach to care. And the tragedy, the real tragedy, is that most women go through this seismic internal transformation without ever being told that hormones are the driving force behind what they're feeling. They're left to wonder, to blame themselves, to believe the narrative that they're simply getting old and should accept it. If any of this resonates with you, if you've been living with this kind of pain and searching for answers that never quite arrive, I want you to know that I've put something together that may genuinely help. It's available through the first link in the description below. I'm not going to tell you what to expect because I'd rather you see it for yourself. But I will say this, it was created with exactly this kind of situation in mind. And the women who have found it tell me it was the missing piece they needed. Now, let's talk about what can actually be done. Because understanding the problem is only valuable if it leads to a path forward. The first and most important step is recognition. Recognizing that your pain is not random, not imagined, and not simply part of getting older. It has a cause, and that cause is biochemical, not psychological. This shift in perspective alone can be profoundly transformative because it moves you from helplessness to agency, from confusion to clarity, from feeling broken to understanding that your body is responding intelligently, predictably, to a hormonal environment that has fundamentally changed. You are not falling apart. Your body is signaling that it needs something it used to have in abundance and no longer does. The second step is comprehensive hormonal evaluation. Not just a basic blood panel, a thorough assessment that includes estradiol, progesterone, free and total testosterone, DHEA-S, cortisol, thyroid hormones, and inflammatory markers. Many women have had hormone tests and been told everything is normal, but the reference ranges used in standard labs are often too broad to capture the subtle but significant shifts that trigger pain. A specialist who understands hormonal transitions will interpret those numbers very differently from someone who's just looking for pathology. The third step, and this one is often overlooked, is nervous system support. If your nervous system has become sensitized, you need strategies that calm it down. This includes things like magnesium glycinate, which supports muscle relaxation and nerve function. Omega-3 fatty acids, which have been shown in multiple studies to reduce neuroinflammation. Vitamin D, which plays a direct role in pain modulation and is deficient in a staggering number of menopausal women. Adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, which help regulate cortisol and reduce the stress response that feeds the pain cycle. Movement is also critical, but not the kind most people think. High-intensity exercise can actually worsen pain in sensitized nervous systems. What helps is gentle, rhythmic, low-impact movement, walking, swimming, yoga, tai chi. These forms of movement stimulate the production of endorphins, improve circulation to stiff joints, and gradually retrain the nervous system to interpret movement as safe rather than threatening. Studies published in the Journal of Pain Research have shown that consistent low-impact exercise can reduce central sensitization markers in as little as 8 weeks. Sleep cannot be ignored either. During deep sleep, specifically during stages 3 and 4 of non-REM sleep, your body produces growth hormone, repairs damaged tissue, consolidates memory, and recalibrates pain sensitivity. If you're not sleeping well, and most women in hormonal transition are not, your pain will always be worse the next day. It's not coincidence, it's physiology. Your body needs those deep sleep hours the way it needs oxygen. Without them, the pain cycle feeds itself endlessly. Addressing sleep isn't a luxury. It's not optional self-care. It's a clinical necessity. Progesterone supplementation, magnesium glycinate before bed, the amino acid glycine, reducing blue light exposure, and establishing strict sleep hygiene practices can make an enormous difference here. Some women tell me that improving their sleep was the single most impactful change they made, more than any supplement, more than any medication. And then there's the emotional dimension, which I think deserves honest acknowledgement, because no one talks about it, and it matters deeply. Living with chronic pain that no one can explain is psychologically devastating. It erodes your sense of self. It makes you doubt your own perceptions. It makes you withdraw from the people and activities that once defined you. You stop making plans because you don't trust your body to cooperate. You start avoiding conversations about how you feel because you're tired of seeing the doubt in other people's eyes. And when professionals, people you trusted, dismiss your pain or attribute it to anxiety or suggest that maybe you just need to relax, it creates a wound that goes deeper than the physical one. It makes you feel alone in a way that is difficult to describe to anyone who hasn't been there. If you're in that place right now, I want you to hear this clearly. Your pain is real. It has a cause. It has a name, and you are not crazy. There is something I've been sharing with women who are in exactly this stage, something that brings together the nutritional, hormonal, and nervous system support I've been describing. You'll find it mentioned in the pinned comment and through the first link below this video. I share it not as a sales pitch, but as a genuine recommendation from someone who has watched too many women suffer unnecessarily. Take a moment, look at it, and decide for yourself if it speaks to what you're going through. I want to come back to something I said earlier about the woman who couldn't open a jar. After we identified the hormonal connection, after we addressed her estrogen and progesterone levels, after we supported her nervous system with targeted nutrition and adjusted her movement routine, something remarkable happened. Not overnight, not in a week. But within 3 months, she told me she woke up one morning and realized she hadn't thought about pain in 2 days, 2 full days. For a woman who had lived with constant pain for over 2 years, that was everything. She cried when she told me, not because the pain was completely gone. It wasn't, not yet, but because for the first time, she believed it could be. That's what understanding does. It doesn't just give you answers, it gives you hope. And hope, when it's grounded in science and real clinical experience, is one of the most powerful medicines there is. I've seen it change the way women carry themselves, the way they speak about their bodies, the way they approach each morning, not with dread, but with the quiet confidence that comes from finally knowing what's happening and what to do about it. What I've shared with you today is not fringe science. It's not alternative medicine. It's not a wellness trend that will be forgotten next year. It's the intersection of endocrinology, neurology, and pain science, three fields that have been studying these mechanisms independently for decades, but whose findings rarely make it into a standard 15-minute consultation. The research exists. It's published, it's peer-reviewed. The evidence is robust and growing every year. The solutions are available. What's been missing, what has always been missing, is someone willing to sit down, connect the dots, and explain it to you in a way that makes sense, in a way that respects your intelligence and your suffering. And that's exactly what I've tried to do today. Not to replace your healthcare team, not to give you a quick fix, but to give you the knowledge that allows you to walk into your next appointment with clarity, with the right questions, and with the unshakable understanding that what you're feeling is not in your head. If this video helped you see your pain differently, if it gave you language for something you've been feeling but couldn't explain, then I have one request. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for you, because this is just the beginning of the conversation. There are more layers to this, more connections to explore, more strategies to share, and I want you to be here for all of it. Share this with a woman you love, a sister, a friend, a mother, someone who's been told her pain is normal or imagined or untreatable, because the truth is, it's none of those things. It's a signal that her body is asking for something it desperately needs. And once she understands that, everything can change. The pain you feel is not your destiny, it's not your identity, it's a message. And now you finally know how to read it.